Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, did you know there's a skill many men never learn that ends up seriously limiting your professional success and satisfaction in your love and sex life? I put together a free guide to explain this unknown skill and give you exactly what you need to use it today. Get it by heading over to ShaynaJamesCoaching.com or text the word ALIVE, A-L-I-V-E, to 44144. That's 44144. You'll also get access to Man Alive outtakes, raw footage, and bonus videos you can only get there. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I'm excited to be here today to discuss a topic that I would say men likely think about a lot, and yet not necessarily in terms of relationship or this mysterious topic that I will introduce in a moment. It has an impact on many aspects of our lives that we may not even connect it to. So the topic we're going to talk about today is money and how to be financially healthy. And we have Patrick King here today. Patrick, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Shayna.
Yeah, and Patrick is a financial advisor, and somehow I just suddenly felt the call to have the money conversation on this podcast. We haven't really done it yet. And, Patrick, you and I were talking about how most of us are left on our own. I was actually, recently looking at, okay, where do I want to put my money in my retirement account for this year? And doing a little bit of research and talking to my father about it because he's been my financial guide in a way. But realizing, right, we don't learn about this in middle school, high school, college. We're really just left out on a limb here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And on top of not being given the knowledge, in school and growing up, I think Wall Street's science out of making all of them confusing. And there's just so many ways that you can get taken along the way or be led in a direction that's not going to ultimately serve you.
Right. Which I think then has us, many people feel scared or feel apprehensive or, maybe there's some luck and some good fortune, or maybe there's actually some strategy in building some wealth. But then the other thing you and I talked about that we'll dive into is that, mindset can be just as challenging with this as the basic fundamentals and strategy. And so we can really get ourselves in a bind, whether we have enough money or not. And it can be a really stressful topic. It can be stressful in romantic relationships. It can be stressful in business relationships and even just personally.
Yeah, just internally. I mean, think about what we just talked about. I mean, okay, there's so much ignorance and so much on the line, with not knowing what you're doing. So automatically that brings shame into play. So no one wants to talk about, all right, this is where I'm at. I need help with this. And so people, it would be so easy to stay stuck.
Yeah.
Because, just the internal relationship you have with yourself around money can get in the way. And then you throw a romantic relationship or a family relationship where money gets in the way on top of that. It could go sideways. Really,
it can go sideways really fast, really fast. I was just actually thinking about recently my own relationship with money. And, I was raised in a household that we had enough money to do what we wanted to do. And my dad was very, what would I say? I don't want to say penny pinching. That feels like a negative framing of it, but he was very conscious of spending money and always spending as little as we could and getting the best deals and the coupons and going to the places where things were on sale. And, it used to be a nightmare for me when I actually grew up and was on my own to go to the supermarket. Because I was trying to spend as little money as possible. Even now I realized, and this is, 20 years after being an adult on my own, I'm still in some ways trying to spend as little money as I can everywhere. And I just started realizing, oh my God, the stress that creates, in taking care of my son, in navigating time with other people, or just taking care of myself. So it's interesting to start really looking at those old money beliefs that we each have and how they're actually, weaving their way into many moments of our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And that seems to be a pretty big one. It's that kind of scarcity mentality around money. It's like, I have to conserve. I have to make sure that I get the most from every penny,
Yeah. And so tell us your journey, because I know you weren't always a financial advisor. Actually, I just realized I didn't read your bio. So let's go backwards and do a little bit about you. And then I'd love to hear a little bit of your story before we dive into the fundamentals. So, Patrick was not always a financial advisor. And before he was a financial advisor, he had hired a financial advisor only to learn that this person actually wasn't required to look out for his best interests and put his money into crappy investments that paid the advisor big commissions. And he really thought, okay, if this guy can make a living doing this, imagine what someone like myself who actually cares could do. So over the next decade, Patrick worked at two of the Southeast's most prestigious fee-only wealth management firms, helped CEOs and executives from some of the world's largest companies, Hall of Famers, all-star athletes, Grammy-winning artists, and dozens of other people from all walks of life with these most intimate details of their financial lives. And his mission since then has been to help folks, who want to find financial security, learn the secrets of investing that are often reserved for the ultra affluent, and really help people make progress toward building the life they want. So thank you so much for doing what you do and for, bringing it to the masses in that way. And tell us a little bit about your own story and how you got here.
Oh my goodness. But to the point you just made, I had an experience with a financial advisor, and it wasn't a very good one. So at this point in my life, I was a mechanical design engineer, did a lot of product design, and just being a busy person, I wanted someone to help me with my investments. And along the way, once I finally figured out what he had put me in and how much commissions that he made, and it just pissed me off.
Yeah.
Right. If you hire any other type of professional, you would assume that they're going to put your interest ahead of their own.
Yeah.
If you go to a doctor, it's a good assumption that, the Hippocratic Oath, they're not going to say, well, this drug's going to put more money in my pocket. Let me go ahead and do that,
right.
prescribe you this one, or we're going to put this, the surgical procedures,
right.
got a big price tag on it. So you need to pay for that yacht. But same with attorney, same with accountant. So logic would say, hey, if you're going to hire a financial advisor, that person would have that type of relationship with you, but that is not the case. And then I don't know if you've read Tony Robbins' book about this subject, but
no.
And I don't know where he got his numbers from, but I think there are roughly 300,000 financial advisors in the United States, and less than 5% of them are legally required to put your interests ahead of their own.
Wow.
So the numbers are stacked against people who need professional help, and frankly that pissed me off. So back when I was an engineer, and all these jobs that I had, either the companies were going out of business or they were sending all of the design work to India and China. I'm like, I got to do something. Right? And during this time, I had this experience with this quote unquote financial advisor, and I was able to track down some real financial advisors, the fiduciary type of fee only financial advisors here in Atlanta. Took them out to lunch, and when I talked to them, I said, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Great.
And so I kind of worked towards that, and here I am.
Yeah. And you said you've had you had a history before as well, that your parents were involved in the.
Yeah, it wasn't such a non sequitur career change for me because mom was in banking, dad was an accountant,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I've been exposed to some of these ideas growing up, but I really like the idea of being able to do good and do well,
Yeah,
and
I love
this is
it.
a profession that done the right way.
Yeah,
It's
you can do both.
something to do.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's get into some of the fundamentals, right? If someone wanted to be, if a man wanted to be, or woman, if you're listening to, wanted to be financially healthy, and let's maybe even define that, right? As,
Yeah.
you're saving for your future, you have enough to meet your own needs. There isn't a sense of impending stress or doom. You're making conscious decisions. I mean, anything else you want to add to that? And then let's start with some of those fundamentals.
Oh, geez. I think right off the bat, like those are all good things, but right off the bat, the one thing that I see that gets in the way is people don't want to be grown-ups with their money.
Yeah.
They want to kind of stay in that like innocent childlike state. And at the end of the day, it's all about, I'm going to either do it right or I'm going to do it wrong, but I'm going to take responsibility for my financial future. And just
Mm,
having that attitude is for me where it all starts.
yeah.
And there are so many people, and it doesn't matter what their age is, whether they're actually just coming into adulthood or they're in their 60s and they're about to retire. There are folks who really kind of want to be saved in a lot of ways. They don't
Yeah.
want to take responsibility for themselves. And I think that's where it all starts. It's just to say, hey, I'm going to be the one that is responsible for me.
Right. And you mentioned shame before. I mean, I think maybe because it's such a secret, it's similar with sex, right? We
Oh yeah.
aren't taught a lot about it. We aren't taught a lot about how to be, connected in relationship. And so then to go out and admit that we don't know what we're doing when we have there's this kind of secretive thing where we assume, many people, I think, oh, well, other people must know what they're doing, because
Right.
I don't, but other people must. So, right. So I think the shame can get in the way of being responsible.
Right. Absolutely. And of course, all the comparisons, when you're comparing yourself to someone else that you feel is in your peer group, and they're like, oh man, Bob down the street just bought the new Maserati. I guess I need to, but you have no idea what, those people's financial situation could be. They could be just treading water too.
Yep.
And I think, so taking responsibility and working past that shame is the best starting point, because it opens you up to just being a novice, if that's what you need to be, and asking for help. And gosh, I don't I don't even know what else to say. I could go in so many different directions.
Yeah. But yeah. So, okay. So say someone's going to start, right? I want to start taking financial responsibility for my future. And wow, it really feels like I'm going to, take off my clothes and show you my underwear or something. It's like, whoo, this big, bold move. But okay, we're getting over that part, right? We're getting over some of the shame, the embarrassment. So what's next?
Yeah. Just take an assessment. It's like, where am I really? Like, what do I have? And where do I want to go with this? Because, and this was actually something that a personal trainer told me one time, and I use it all the time. I think it's brilliant. Like, in this life, you can have anything, but you can't have everything. You can't make a choice to, like, even if you're, Jeff Bezos, who has more money than anyone who's ever had money in history.
Yeah.
Like, he can, like, money provides him plenty of optionality, but he can't have it all.
Yeah.
He can't, like, we're all limited into the number of experiences, and even, whether those experiences are material or experiential, we have to make choices.
Yes.
So it all comes down to, what are the important choices to you, and then prioritize them, and everything that doesn't support that, put that on the back burner.
So the assessment comes in first with assessing what resources you have financially.
Yes. What do I have?
And
Do a
what do you
balance
want?
sheet. And
Mhm.
this is kind of getting into a lot, stuff you can find easily on Google and YouTube. But yeah, create a balance sheet, like a net
Mhm.
worth statement. See, what are your assets? What are your liabilities? And if the number one, if you've got more liabilities, debts, and other negatives on the balance sheet, the first order of business is to just go ahead and start working on those, especially consumer debt like credit card. Those are out there, and they will keep you in a state of stress, in a state of financial insecurity, as long as they're out there.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this, because again, I'm a novice at this, but one of the pieces of advice I got years ago was that even if there is debt, I should also still be paying or putting some money into an account, or something for my future, not necessarily just paying off debt. So as
Well, that's a
the
good point.
expert, what what do you think about that?
It depends on the debt. Like if it's a credit card, think about it this way, Shana. If you've got a credit card and you've got a $10,000 balance on it, and you're paying 16% interest on that
Yeah.
$10,000, and you've got $10,000 you could be investing, and then say realistically you're going to make 7%, roughly.
Hmm.
That's a pretty big delta, the negative 16% and the positive 16%, right?
Yes.
So in a case like that, I would say absolutely pay it off first.
Yeah. Okay,
Get
this
out of
is
the
good.
hole.
Yeah, no, I love that we're getting into the nitty gritty of this too, right? Because it's like
Mhm.
these are the things that I would imagine. We'll get into some of this, but these are the things that if you listening need some help with this and need some guidance, Patrick's a great person to call for this, because there are different circumstances, right? I mean, whereas if you have a credit card that has 0% interest for a certain amount of time, or there's all
Mhm.
these different pieces that I imagine you help people navigate. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that would be a good example. But it comes back to choices, though,
Yeah.
because if you're looking at paying off a credit card, your choices around your cash flow are going to enable you to do that or not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe I don't need to go to the mall or buy the latest car, or whatever it is that's going to have cash going out instead of investing back into yourself, right?
Yeah.
So 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 it's easy to talk to the debt piece and all that, but again, at the end of the day, it all comes down to taking responsibility and making tough choices. you know
Yeah. Right. And people have, choices around housing and kids and school and education and all these different things. So it sounds like first there's an
yeah,
assessment of your resources and what you have, and then also assessment of your own values and what's most important to you now and in the future.
absolutely. And if you don't make those choices, someone's going to be happy to make them for you,
Mm.
right? Whether it's family members, or spouse or significant other, or
The government.
government,
Yep.
especially, I live in Atlanta, and it's like we are bombarded with materialism. Just every
Mm.
day you go out of your house, or you cut on the television or something like that, you're just completely bombarded with people who want your time, attention, and money.
Yeah.
So if you're not careful about, or intentional about, where you want to go with your financial energy, they're going to capture your attention.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting, right? That even, advertising, if you don't have a clear picture of where your money's going to go and what you're going to invest in and what you're going to spend on, then you are more likely to be swayed by, things you see and things other people have.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're living someone else's dream. You've got an expensive house you can't afford, and cars that are 90% owned by the bank, and all of a sudden you don't feel happy for some reason.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, you may as well be using your financial resources for things that you want, that are going to fulfill you.
Yeah. Okay. So what's next? First, we're getting over the embarrassment and actually doing an
Yeah.
assessment. And then once someone has a sense of, here are the resources I have and here's what I actually want, where do
What
you go from there?
Yeah, and that's kind of the first step is, all right, where are we? Where are you, and where are we trending? the next step, I say, and this gets overlooked a lot, and I know it's boring, but protecting your backside is one of those things that I think probably 8 out of 10 people that I talk to don't have their backside protected. Is
What do you
real.
mean? Because I don't even know what that means by protecting my backside.
Right. So this is where a lot of insurance-y stuff comes up, right? Which,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, hopefully people continue after I said the word insurance to listen to this podcast because it can be boring.
Don't press stop now.
Don't stop just yet. But the number one thing is people don't have estate planning documents.
Uh-huh.
And people automatically think wills when they're thinking of estate planning. Well, I don't have anything. It's just going to go to my family members. Well, okay, but what happens if if you get in a car wreck and you're incapacitated for a few days?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to? And I'll give you a story from my life. One of my good friends from college. He had like 3 black belts and was just a gifted athlete. He, after college, was a science teacher. And then one day after class, he was standing on a desk in his classroom to hang something from the ceiling.
Oh, no.
Slipped and fell, hit his head, and then was in a coma. And he did not have like a healthcare advance directive or a living will. Certain states have certain different documents. Mm-hmm. That allowed his wife to tell the doctor to, yes, please go forward with this procedure to relieve the pressure on his brain. But the doctor, because she didn't have the form set up, and I think they're a little less afraid of getting sued these days, but he couldn't do it.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. So she had to go in front of a judge and, have the rights given to her in order to have the doctor perform a procedure. And it's just, think about if that's you and if you're in that situation.
Yeah.
It's not fun stuff to think about, but like, don't do that to your loved ones, please.
Right. Well, and this is where money does tie in with your loved ones and with all your relationships and, who takes over your business if you have an accident or all of these things. And so it does become really relational and emotional.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's taking responsibility, especially if you've got a family, taking responsibility can be of not just the wills and stuff like that, and not just the money, but the whole picture can be an act of love for those people.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, it absolutely can be, because you don't want to leave them, without money or without any kind of direction or not knowing where anything is, or those are hard enough times to go through. If you leave chaos to your loved ones, it just makes it that much harder for them. And I've unfortunately seen that one too.
Yeah. Thank you for that personal story, because it brings it home. It has us there's a way I know I can live, thinking, oh, I'll be around forever.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen, which usually nothing happens, but sometimes it does.
Yeah. Yeah. You get those estate planning documents, and usually it's a will, it's an advance directive for healthcare, and a financial power of attorney. Mm-hmm. And usually it's the latter two, that if something happens to you, you're incapacitated. It allows someone to make decisions for you. And those are the two that you need. Yeah. And in most states, and I talk to parents all the time, well, if something happens to my kid, I should be able to, make the decisions. And it's like, that's not necessarily so. If your kid's 21 or over, the age of majority or in your state, they're an adult, and they, even as young as they are, they're going to need this stuff too.
Wow.
So I've encouraged parents to have these documents done for their kids, so they're protected.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important.
And yeah.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
so we're still on step 2. We kind of got a little bit.
Oh, we're still on step 2. This is still the part of the
This
assessment
is
and the.
this is taking care of your backside.
Oh, okay, right. So step 1 actually wasn't showing your underwear and getting over shame. Step 1 was the assessment. Step 2 is the taking care of
Step
your
one
back.
is getting. Step 1 is getting naked in the mirror by yourself.
Yes.
Right? You haven't brought anybody in yet, but you're still naked. And you're like, okay, this is what it is.
Yep.
This is what we've got to work with.
Yep.
So yeah, step 2 is making sure that you've covered your backside as much as possible. And there's like, you can't protect yourself from every risk in the world. So, yes, you get your estate planning documents. If you've got a family, get life insurance. And you've got your property insurance and your auto insurance, house insurance, just the big stuff. Make sure that those are just set up the way that they need to be. Being adult about these things.
Yeah.
Don't stick your head in the sand because it's uncomfortable and boring.
Right.
And get help if you need to.
Great.
So yeah.
Okay. Then I don't even know how many steps we have here, but what's step 3?
Step 3 is making the decision of, all right, what do I want from this life? And what do I need to do to get there? What choices are available to me? What are the levers that I can pull in order to do that? If you're stuck in that life where, you live in, I was stuck in, I called it beige life, where, I was kind of out in the burbs and just kind of doing the same thing that everybody else did. And of course, for me, that was unsatisfying. And for a lot of people it is. So, all right, what do I want out of this life? Life, even if we all live to 100, life is short. So let's make a decision and let's start working toward it. And then from there, that's when it really counts to be brave and prioritize the life and experiences that you want. And for some people that, I want to see my kid walk across the stage for college graduation. Okay, we can do that. And it's, for some people, hey, maybe owning a beach house is their thing. Yeah, that's cool. But what are you willing to do to make that happen? What are you willing to put in work? You can save. Well, that's one way. You can not spend, or you can go find ways to earn more.
I like those: save, not spend, or find ways to earn more.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, it's there are plenty of people out there that can do this for themselves, but finding a professional like somebody like me, somebody who's a fee-only financial planner, can always help you walk through these. And there's a group called NAPFA, NAPFA, National Association of Personal Financial Advisors. They're the fee-only types. So if you're going to look for someone, please look there. These are the people who aren't salespeople dressed up like people who give advice.
Advisors.
They're the real deal people.
So could they and you, right, can show people, one of the things, right, is to even know our options. In some ways, if we're not surrounded by people who are buying beach houses or having enough in retirement or even talking about this, right, or having kids go to college or whatever, we need to be exposed to these options. Is that something that financial advisors actually help with?
Oh yeah. And thank you for bringing that up, because I do this every day. Sometimes it's nice to be zoomed out into that perspective, but don't assume that what you want is out of your reach or not possible. And I think of a couple that I worked with, and they were just diligent savers their whole life. And at one point, they talked about swapping out their carpet and putting down hardwood floors or something like that. But they're like, man, those hardwood floors are expensive. We're not sure if we can do that. Well, it was one of those things. It's like, okay, you have enough money to get hardwood floors every month for the rest of your life, and you would still not run out of money. So let's go ahead and call a contractor and get it done, or, folks, like very recently I talked to someone, and it was like a voluntary retirement program came up at his job. And the question was like, can I retire?
Right. Yeah.
Like, do I have enough to take advantage of this package that they're offering me? And, like so many folks just don't know. They just don't know because we don't talk about it. Like, what does it take to actually retire?
Well, right. I was telling you that I just got a flyer in the mail that said, how do you know how much you need for retirement or how much you actually have? And I was like, oh, this is amazing. This would be really helpful for me to know how much do I need, to retire. And granted, there are many different factors that someone like you would help me figure out. But I mean, right. It's such an important question. And most of us, I shouldn't say, I should just say for myself, I'm not thinking about that on an everyday basis.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And, it's such a moving target too. And you think about, okay, this is the rest of my life. People are retiring for 30 years. Yeah. Let's say you retire at 62 and, life expectancy is 92. Mm-hmm. It's a long time.
Right. It's a long time to not be.
That's a long time. Yeah. I tell people all the time. They're like, well, I need to, be a little bit more conservative. I'm retiring. I'm like, well, you're a long-term investor, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and it comes back to choices, making powerful choices, because if you retire and you decide that, hey, I just kind of want to live a simple life, I don't need to, go out to 5-star restaurants every week. You probably need a whole lot less than you think.
That's interesting because I've been thinking, living in the Bay Area and not owning a house yet and wondering whether I ever will. So now I'm showing my underwear, right? There's a way that I think, oh, wow, well, when I eventually retire, I may still have a mortgage, that's a couple $1,000s a month, or I'd end up having to choose to live somewhere less expensive. But, a lot of people don't have to have that monthly expense later in their life. So again, I think that just goes back to what you're saying. So many different choices and how do we want to live and what's most important to us, and being willing to ask these uncomfortable questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So in your case, it's all right. You live in probably the most expensive city in the United States as far as housing goes, but that's a choice, right?
Right. It is. And to look at that actually even not making a choice or, being within something is a choice.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you can make a positive decision about it, or you can make a decision by default. By just simply choosing to punt for another day, you still have to live in the most expensive city. Yep. So yeah, but then again, it brings more opportunities to you too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a trade-off for a lot of that.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like, step 3 is this idea of getting clear what you want, what's possible. And then does this include how you would get there, or is that step 4?
Yeah, step 4 would be, okay, let's make a plan. Mm-hmm. We've decided what we want, and let's actually, at some point, somebody actually has to do the math around all of this.
Yes.
So let's put some pencil to paper and see what we have to save. And, if we can't make it, like, how can we alter things? How can we cut back on expenses? How can we gear up income? What needs to happen? What's realistic and what's not? It happens maybe less frequently than you would think, but there are folks that I've dealt with that were not realistic about things. So, but I can't really help that. I can show you the numbers and say, here are your options. But fortunately, most folks really kind of get it really quickly.
Yeah. You mean as you're teaching them, most folks get, okay, this is what I would need to do, or this is the trade-off, or this is how I would need to move forward in this.
Yeah, if I gave, having a new car every 2 years up, I could get to this retirement goal so much faster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would be just a kind of a simplistic example, but
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay. Are there more steps, or is it those four?
that's generally how it works right
Okay.
there
That's
in those
great.
4 steps. But just along the way, oh my God, there's so many. And it's just like your coaching clients, I would assume that there's so many mindset shifts
Yeah. That's what I
along
was
the way.
wondering, what the biggest mindset shifts are, or what the biggest, mindsets that get in the way of these pretty simple fundamentals. And yet they're right emotionally laden and all of that. So yeah, what are some of those mindsets that get in the way for people?
Well, and I touched on that, just making a decision and being the owner of your financial experience in your life. The one that I see the most is, folks, and it's like that cycle of samsara, right? Where it's innocence and ignorance and suffering, that
Mm,
cycle back and forth between the two. And at some point, you have to make that choice to own your experience and break out of um, that cycle of innocence and ignorance and suffering, because that can come in a lot of different forms. It's like, oh, I'm not good with investing, so I'm just going to put it with this like sketchy hedge fund guy down the street. I know he
mm,
can really get, and all of a sudden your money's gone because it goes under and you're back in the same situation
yeah.
because you tell yourself a story that you're bad with money.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's painful for you to look at your financial situation because you have too much debt, and facing it would be more painful than actually being ignorant about it.
Yes. At least in the short term, right?
In the short term, right? In the long term, it would be very painful. But
Yeah.
today,
But
it's a lot
today,
easier to ignore it.
yes. Yes.
Let's crack open a beer, and I'll get to that tomorrow,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And yeah, let's see. And the scarcity mentality is one. And this is something that, of course, I deal with all this stuff too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was talking with someone earlier today about this, where, okay, you know, I, you know, who am I to start this firm? Is that something that our family does?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do people in our family take risks like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. So like, okay, there's an interesting like emotion to bump up against there,
Yeah.
right? But being aware of it is I guess the first key to to moving past that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the scarcity mentality. Who am I to own this big house in the middle of Atlanta, or who am I to buy a German luxury car, or whatever it is? Who am I to go to Greece on vacation for a week, whatever it is? A lot of times folks have a hard time allowing themselves, and I the couple with the hardwood floors is like a pretty extreme example of that.
Yeah. That's
Or we
sweet.
have hardwood floors.
Right.
But
Oh, thank you. I mean, this is really, I can feel both the nuts and bolts of this and the emotional intensity of this, right? I mean,
oh
right?
my
That,
goodness.
like you're saying, the willingness to feel some pain or to be humble now
Mm.
versus, in the future, finding out that, wow, I really didn't prepare, or I don't have what I need. And, yeah. Yeah. I can feel in my own psyche, like, okay, gearing up a little bit of, all right, it's time for me to take even more financial responsibility to get even more financially healthy.
Yeah. And think about when you go to the doctor, or at least when I go to the doctor, or anyone else's experiences. So I hope that
Yeah.
I have the same experiences. But I go to the doctor, and the doctor just says, "All right, take your clothes off." I'm like, "Whoa! All right." The doctor, it's just another, appointment for the doctor.
Yeah.
She doesn't care. For me, it feels uncomfortable.
Oh, that's a good point, right? Some financial advisor is not necessarily going to be sitting there judging
Right.
you, or you're not judging your clients. You're there to help.
Exactly. It's the same thing, when I sit down with a new client. It's like, all right, let's look at your balance sheet. Let's look at your tax return. It's like, whoa. And I mean, this is like almost like a 9 out of 10. It's like, I should probably have a whole lot more money than I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, everybody says that.
Everybody says that. That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Good. Well, all right. So for someone listening who would like some more support, where can they find you?
You can find me at transformative-financial.com. That's my firm, Transformative Financial. You can email me at patrick@transformative-financial.com. And you're free to give me a call at 404-500-9261.
Awesome. Thank you for doing this today. And thank you for helping us get financially healthy as, one of the foundations of a meaningful and well-lived life.
Well, thank you for having me, Shannon. And I hope listeners got something from that. Because at the end of the day, our finances are here to support our life.
Mm. It's a beautiful way to put it, right? Not the other way around. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope it gives you a sense of what's possible and how good your life can be. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe to Man Alive and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/manalive to get outtakes, videos, and raw footage I only share there. These are some of the most interesting parts of these expert conversations. You can also grab your copy of The Unknown Power to accelerate your career and solidify your confidence with women, because the two are related, and I know you don't have to settle for one or the other. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.